Where have all the good deals gone? I have all of them. All of them. All the good deals. I have all of them. No, not really, just most of them. Seriously though, there's a lot of people that want to know, how do you actually, Kris, get your hands on so many good deals? How do you even select your markets? In this video, I'm going to share with you the macro and microeconomics of how I pick the nation's hottest markets. And in the next video, I'm actually going to take you into those markets and show you exactly what they look like. Finding 101. Your backyard is limited. I want you to understand that most backyards are not markets that I would invest in. Now, I can show you with my lease option system how to go into your backyard and make good deals happen. When we talk about, Kris, how do you get the highest ROI? We're not just looking at doing something in the backyard and saying, hey, I'm going to subject myself to whatever I've got in my backyard that I can drive around and see. I did that in the beginning for the first several years. And then at one point I put on my big boy underpants and I said, I'm ready to go to the markets where I can find the very best deals. You see, your market is about the microeconomics. It's already been selected, so whatever's happening there, you have to put up with. You need to start first with the macroeconomics. You need to understand before you go into a specific market and look for a deal, you need to be asking things like, what are the markets that are seeing the biggest growth? Where are large companies moving in? Where are some of the markets where people are paid more but have a lower cost of living? You see, these macroeconomics make such a big difference when you're saying, why am I capturing consistently a higher ROI than I could be getting anywhere else? Friends, that's because out of 350 markets that make up the United States, at any given moment, there's only a handful, 3, 4, 5, 6, that are going to be the very best markets with the most ideal circumstances for maximum profit. So when we talk about macroeconomics, we're talking about the path of progress. We're talking about where are areas where the population is expected to have high growth? Where are areas where businesses are moving into and taking notice because that particular state has an economical situation or tax advantages that are good for large corporations? And what we end up finding is that there are areas that are projected over time to have big population growth. Now you need to understand where population is growing, you need more houses. And the value of houses going up almost always has to do with the supply and demand. And population is the driver of that. I mean, just think about it for a moment. If you're familiar with America, your biggest cities also have your highest priced and most expensive real estate. So you take a look at Seattle and New York and LA, and what do they have in common? Big population, more business, more economic stimulus, and those are going to shoot up. But at the same time, you know my rules. If you're a subscriber to the channel, if you're not, you fix that right now. You know that I have rules of not buying over the median. So I'm looking for the emerging markets that are on track to become massive marketplaces down the road. And I got to find my homes where I can get them for 100,000 and 200,000 and 250,000 underneath that median. And that's an area that if you combine really high growth with that, boom, you're going to be shooting up. So in the markets that I'm in, that I'll tell you about on the next video, you could start Googling them and you're going to see top market for this, best market for that, people moving here for this, people making babies like crazy or whatever, stimulating, the market, which is why we need real estate. Good population, good growth is going to mean more houses, and it's going to mean higher appreciation. Now, we don't base our model on appreciation, but we do account for it. So we just don't count on it. And that's important because if you're going to be in a market for 3-5 years, appreciation in a market like that can move away from your typical 3% and it can become your very non-typical 6, 7, or 10% per annum. Once we've taken a look at the macroeconomics for the areas that are seeing the best and highest growth, we can evaluate where we're going to get the most growth, where we're going to get the most cash flow. That's when it's time to get micro because we've selected a market. My team, we've put boots on the ground. We've got people that live out there. We've got brick and mortar. And what they're doing out there is they're now finding the best deals. That's the microeconomics. It's, okay, if we're going to hold a home for 3, 5, 7 years, what are we doing to make sure that there's equity in it or that there's great growth or that there's cash flow? Now here's a warning for you. If a market is re-emerging, you're going to be making full price offers and you're going to say, dude, there's no equity. How is this a good deal? Friends, equity is what you find and can substantiate once a market has re-emerged. But if we're going back to like Phoenix, for example, where I was buying homes for 100 grand after they had been worth 220, you're not going to get an appraisal showing something higher. You're going to get an appraisal showing what's sold in the last 6 months, which is going to be less. And my clients made $70 million over a 5-year period of time, including many of my partners, with that strategy. So sometimes we see equity, often we don't. based on this strategy and the markets that we're going into. Now, the microeconomics, before I ever actually pull the trigger on one of my single family homes that we buy for 3 to 5 years underneath the median that meets all of my criteria, we're generally in areas where the people are making often double the kind of money for what they can afford, which means we're not having problems with vacancies or tenants that are struggling to make their payments. We're also buying usually newer homes that have less problems. So there's all these criteria, and in a moment I'm going to take you online, I'm going to show you some of them. I want you to understand that the microeconomics only become important once you've selected the right market to be in. And every 5, 6, 7 years, I'll be shifting out of my top markets into new top markets because they keep changing. Okay, now listen, you can follow along with me. I'm going on to kriskrohn.com. Notice I got a little bit of a funny spelling in my name, it's German. And I'm going to click over here on About Kris. Now, on the About Kris page, you're going to learn a little bit more about me, and you're going to see you could mentor with Kris, you could transform your team, or you could partner with Kris. So I'm going to click on the Partner with Kris, and as we come over here, what you're going to see is that I can build a portfolio with you and help you create a legacy. Now, I'm not going to read through everything that you have here, but as I scroll down, I want you to take a look at some of the recent properties that I have done. Okay, now here's one of my hot markets. And the next video, I'm going to go into way more detail about my markets, but if we just look at a couple of these, in Indiana, we've got Indianapolis, and on this property, we're purchasing it for $82,000. It was built in 1962. It is a slightly older home, but look at that. An annual projected ROI of 19.85%. This is one of my cash flow markets, not one of my growth markets. And by the way, anyone that can produce that kind of ROI or even half of that, you're a superstar in the game of real estate. So I'm going to click more on this and check it out. As we look at this, we got the purchase price. We can see the down payment, the estimated closing costs, the coordination fee, the total out of pocket. We can also see the year that it was built. And as we scroll on down, we'll see the down payment, the closing costs, everything gets factored in. And then we look at our income and expenses on gross rent, income, insurance, HOA, property management, vacancies, repairs, etc. And as we track that, we include the financials, the glossary of terms, and you can more or less see the kind of money that is possible for you to earn on this particular deal. Now, if I come out of this one, and maybe we could look at Tennessee. We got 3 Tennessee deals here. 3-bedroom, 2-bath that you can buy for $140, built in 1991, a 20.6% ROI. I've got another one here, a 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath that you can get for 21.92%. And this one also in King Drive, Cordova, 5-bedroom, 2.5 bath. It's a higher price, $192, built in 1990, a 21% overall average annual ROI. That 21% is going to consist of the cash flow that you're going to be earning, also the growth that we're anticipated, and we've got all the numbers that are there for you. So I wanted to bring your attention to this to let you know that when it comes time to looking at a deal, we're going to have that level of math written up on every single one of them. And friends, my team's been doing this for years, so I want you to understand something. We look back over the years and check back on accuracy. Right now, our accuracy is extraordinarily high. So the numbers, you shouldn't just trust them, you should understand that they are estimates across the board. But when you've done thousands of deals like we have, nearly $1 billion in real estate, you get good at this and you make it boring. Ones and zeros, all trackable, no emotion. It's just the numbers are what the numbers are. Now, the last thing that you need to understand about finding a good deal on like a conveyor belt system is that we're bringing volume to the table. This is why we're getting extraordinarily high ROIs. I'm not just saying, oh, I found a deal in Atlanta, Georgia, and it has a 25% ROI. I wouldn't do that deal. I wouldn't. If it was a 50% ROI, I probably still wouldn't do it. Do you know why? I might tie it up and wholesale it, but I'm not going to do that deal because I'm only interested in going into a market where I can duplicate and do the same good work over and over and over again as a team develops even deeper expertise. It means that my team with volume can start pulling tile and carpet out of China. We can formalize our paint decks and charts, and we can systematize our repair process. You get to know an area very intimately, and when you play the volume game where you're doing dozens of deals every single month in that area, you get good at it, and you also get to front load all of those deals to your property manager. Why is that good? Because a property manager does not care about you and they don't care about me when we bring them a deal. When you bring them 5 deals, they start to care a little bit. They're making $80 to $100 every month. There's now 5 properties. You're worth $500 a month. When you're worth $100 a month, you're worth nothing. You can't command any loyalty with that. But friends, we go into markets where we're now doing hundreds of deals, and And I'm gonna tell you right now, you can demand all the loyalty you need. You can demand that you get taken care of. You can demand everything you need to that is reasonable because you've given that management company so many of your homes. So volume. So if we review what we've talked about today, look at the macroeconomics to find the best markets, then get into the microeconomics and then do volume. Those three things are why we are crushing it in our deals. Hey, thank you so much for watching this video. Hopefully this was really helpful for you understanding what you need to understand first about going into specific markets. The next video, I'll share with you the details on the homes and the markets themselves. And if you are serious about actually looking into a partnership, then I want you to click the link in the description below, talk to a member of my team, see if we've got a fit. You gotta have a certain amount of money that you can really invest with. If you don't got money, you gotta go to kriskrohn.com, check out Partner Profits. Partner Profits is where you can jam with my team and we'll show you how to find the people with money. We'll show you where to get the deals. You put the two of them together and you're off to the races.